is Virginia Reloaded, presented by Gun Owners of America, fighting for your rights in the Commonwealth and beyond.
Welcome to episode 6 of Virginia Reloaded. My name is John Crump. I am the Virginia State Director of Gun Owners of America, Washington's only no compromise gun lobby. And we have a full house tonight. We're going to learn a little history of gun rights in the Commonwealth. But before we get into that, I'm going to introduce you to my co-host from Gorillas and Guns YouTube channel, Scott Ayers. What is up, Scott?
Hey, John, how's it going, man? Same old, just living and breathing and watching what's unfolding around the country.
And I'm going to bring in my next guest. He is the current PA Gun Owners of America director and the first president of VCDL, Val Finnell, Dr. Val Colonel Finnell.
How are you?
Colonel Dr. Val Finnell or Dr. Colonel Val Finnell?
Anything but late for dinner.
Exactly. And the final guest, he is the founder of NVCDL, which is the forerunner of VCDL. And his name is Paul Moog. What is up? And still lives in Virginia. Val kind of retreated to another Commonwealth. So apparently Val likes Commonwealths. How are you doing?
I prefer Commonwealths.
How are you doing, Paul?
I'm doing well. Good to see you guys.
All right. So we have Gorillas and Guns. We usually do something on the show where we show like a gun of the day. But before we do that, I want to say hi to ISX Cummings 565. I see Gorillas and Guns. That guy looks familiar.
Yeah.
M. Gabriel, Facebook user. If I can't see what your name is on Facebook unless you give Facebook permission to send your name. Mr. FNH, M. Gabriel, and a bunch of others out there. Okay. Before we usually do something on the show called Gun of the Day, right? Where we do like a specific gun. I forgot to set that up, but
and I forgot to send mine.
Whatever. So let's just talk about the guns that we carry, what we are currently carrying, like we carry today. I carried my Glock 43. Nothing done to it, just bone stock Glock 43. I usually carry that during the summertime instead of my 19 because it's a little bit smaller. What did you carry today, Scott?
I carried my Taurus PT-111 G2 Millennium.
Oh, that's actually a nice gun. I don't like Tauruses, but that's actually a nice Taurus.
Yeah, I did a little bit of research trying to find a somewhat kind of compact for carry. So, and that one was in a good price range and had a lot of good reviews. So I got one, tried it out, and been carrying it ever since.
And Mr. Moog, what did you carry today?
I normally carry a Shield 45-20. It's a nice, compact 45, lightweight, almost the same capacity as a 1911. Pretty much a simple gun, relatively inexpensive too.
Yeah. How about you, Val?
I usually carry my SIG P238, so I carried that today.
I figured you'd be carrying like a Navy or an Army gun. Looks like Paul's in a little bit of trouble.
Number 1911 too. I like that to carry as well, but I didn't carry that today.
Yeah. You actually carry a 1911 for the carry gun?
Yeah, I like 1911s.
You're old.
I'd carry one if I could afford one.
Mm-hmm.
You're old. Well, don't carry a Kimber. Those anti-gun people.
As Alan Rice is fond of saying, why carry a 45? Because they don't make a 46.
Alan Rice is an interesting guy. I'm going to get him on the podcast, but then I would have to explain to him how to use StreamYard. And he will just complain. It'll be like an hour of him complaining about StreamYard for some reason.
Yeah.
Don't get Alan started on Zoom.
No.
I
This
love
is
Alan.
really easy to use, actually. It's very pleasant.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I gotta give a shout out to StreamYard, because if you like write them, say, hey, I think we should have this feature. Like the president of the company write you back and go, what do you like about that feature? And then if you tell them what you like about that feature, it's like, all right, let me see what I can do. And like a month later, it'll be like, hey, look.
Wow.
Yeah, they're really, really responsive.
It's not like our legislative tracking service.
Yeah, hopefully that's going by the wayside and getting a new one.
Yes.
All right. So with that said, let's take a little time travel trip back to the 90s. And Mr. Moog here, Paul, decided that Virginia needed some gun rights. And if you think our gun rights are bad in Virginia now with the new legislature, it was worse back then. A lot of people don't believe me, but am I lying, guys? Paul?
No, back in, I guess I got involved.
Okay.
Oh, we lost him.
Val? Was
Yep.
it worse back then?
I'll default to Paul on that, because I showed up on the scene in 1995. I showed up on the scene in 1995 when I PCS'd or transferred from Tripler Army Medical Center to Walter Reed, and that's where I met these guys. But Paul would be the expert to tell you what things were like prior to 1995.
Prior to 1995, Paul. See if you can stay on.
As I would say before, our wonderful DSL line here in Orange flaked out. In 93, when I got involved in gun rights in Virginia, we were fighting the one gun a month law. And that was actually the first rally we had in Richmond, at least the one that I'm aware of. The NRA organized a rally to fight it. And the rally, despite we had a pretty good crowd at it, it really didn't stop it. The one gun a month went through, and it took quite a few years to overturn that. But that was really my start into the whole gun rights game. And I sort of saw that the NRA's approach was not working very well, that there wasn't they really didn't have a good grassroots game. At the time, Dennis Fusera from GOA was working with us quite a bit. I saw him at many events, and so got associated with a number of other activists working here in Virginia. And it was with that core group that in 94, I decided that the best way to fight the one gun a month was not to try to overturn it, but to fight for gun rights, but to go for right to carry. At the time, Florida, there was only, I think, 7 states at the time that had a shall issue permit system. And so we decided to say, rather than fight against something, it's hard to get people to fight against something. You want to give them something to fight for. So we pushed for concealed carry reform. And
he's gone again. Yeah.
Yeah.
The history of NVCDL.
Yeah, the history of NVCDL. Yeah. So.
And as I was saying, in 95, we pushed for, it started in 94, the fall of 94, we started NVCDL. Actually, the first thing we did was protest a gun turn-in Alexandria on October 22nd, 1994. Then we held meetings to organize the push to get through concealed carry reform. Got GOA. We actually had NRA working with us. We had the NRA flew in Susanna Gracia Hupp for hearings in Richmond. We had several other victims, female victims of crime who testified, and they were very effective witnesses. And to everyone's surprise, even at the time, NRA told us there was no way we would get through, but they'd help us. Well, to the surprise of everyone, we did get concealed carry reform through that year, and it was signed into the Personal Protection Act of 1995 was signed. That's that spring and went into effect that summer. And since then, we've had, gosh, I guess it's 26 years of shall issue carry in Virginia. And despite what the critics said, it's been a very, very successful exercise of Second Amendment rights. And, it gives people a lot of feeling of confidence to be able to protect themselves. Out here, I'm in Orange County now. And
He's gone again.
Yeah, why he's gone, give me 1 second. I'm going to switch the recording. Just to bear with me. Hey Val,
Yeah.
I can record directly to my computer, right? Instead of going to a card.
On the Rodecaster?
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but you can record to the card on the Rodecaster. I knew that.
Yeah, but the card's almost full, and I don't have my other one here.
Oh yeah.
Eek. Oh man.
I'm not sure if you can go. You probably can. I don't know what the settings are. But Paul's not coming back. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, it's taking him a little. Oh, there he is.
Hold on, guys.
He's gone.
Sorry.
Again.
Just give me 1 second. I'll be right back. All right. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Good.
Well,
right.
When I first connected with NVCDL, right? So after I transferred from Tripler Army Medical Center, I wanted to be able to carry, and I heard about the new concealed carry law that just got passed in Virginia, and I said, "There's no way I'm going to live in the People's Republic of Maryland," so I moved to Springfield, Virginia, and I was standing in line. I think it was the first day they offered concealed carry permits in Fairfax County, long line. And there was a guy walking down the line handing out flyers for NVCDL. And I grabbed it. I looked at it and I said, "What's NVCDL?" And it was Jim Snyder. And Jim Snyder, "Well, we're a gun rights group." And he said, "Come to our meeting." So I did.
I got a question. I heard that the original MVCDL offices were located in the GOA offices. You guys worked out of there. Is that true?
You did a lot of stuff out of there.
Oh, yeah, that's right there in Springfield as well, isn't it?
Yes, we did a lot of stuff out of the GOA office when they were downstairs and in the 90s, and with Dennis, and we need more Paul.
Hey, Paul. Hey, Paul.
This is part of the joy of rural living. You get lots of quality internet service out here, but they're putting in fiber, so hopefully.
If you want to call me on my phone, I can just pipe you right in.
Yeah, that may be easier. I'll go ahead and do that because I think I'm going to keep popping out with all the Netflix going on right now. People are using up all the bandwidth.
Mm.
But as far as working out of GOA, we didn't actually have an office at GOA, but we did do a lot of volunteer. I mean, basically, I ran NVC out of my little two-bedroom house in Alexandria, and we would gather at GOA occasionally to do work party stuffing envelopes and various activities that required a group setting. But it was very helpful of GOA to help. They basically gave us quite a bit of help.
All right, I think you're on the phone too.
When anybody wants to get a
or not.
Can you hear me, John?
Yeah. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna try it this way. Hold on.
Yeah, we can kind of hear him a little bit in the background there.
Yeah. Just give me 1 second. I'm just gonna do this. Give me 1 second. I'll pop Paul in here. Give me 1 second, Paul. All right, Paul, are you there?
Now I hear you.
All right.
I think so.
All right. Well, this is good. Let's roll.
Sound good.
All right.
In
so-
any event, GOA did give us a tremendous amount of help.
yeah. And is that where you discovered GOA at, Val?
Yeah, it was through NVCDL, and and working with Paul and Jim Snyder and all the folks there, and that's how I was introduced to Larry Pratt, and I ended up going to church with him too in Springfield. So we actually homeschooled our kids together. The Valecos and the Pratts, mostly the Valecos. I think we're in the same co-op as the Valecos were, so we go back a long ways. And then NVCDL. I mean, I showed up on the scene in 1995, but I really became a gun rights activist about in Hawaii when I went to register my SKS. I had a Curios and Relics license, and of course, Hawaii has a mandatory gun registration policy, and there was an exception for quote unquote assault weapons if it was on the Curios and Relics list. So I went into the HPD to register my SKS, and they basically wanted to arrest me on the spot for having an assault weapon. I said, "Hey guys, no, it's in the ATF. It's in the book." So, and they had to call the ATF. The ATF agent didn't know where it was, so I had it right with me. I gave him the page number. Then the police officer apologized to me profusely and registered my SKS. I walked out, and I just remember walking down the street to my car, and I said, "What criminal would go into the police station and register their firearm?" This is just crazy. And so I sort of became a gun rights activist at that point. I said, we're going to lose our constitutional rights. I mean, I've been an NRA member since I was 12, with my dad got me an NRA membership, and, my parents taught me the importance of all these things. I really give them a lot of credit for that. But that's really when it clicked for me. I said, this is only targeting the law abiding. There's no way a criminal is going to even care about this stuff. And so then when I transferred to Walter Reed in DC, that's when I hooked up with Paul and Jim Snyder there when I was standing in line in Fairfax County to get my brand new CCW.
And Paul, you let this miscreant end?
Yeah, well, we were hard up for members, and we didn't have a doctor, so we figured he met our doctor quota.
Right. I became the webmaster.
And then I was actually in that part, basically when I got into this whole gun rights thing, as far as I've never been somebody who feels like they have to be in charge of everything and be a leader. But, I kind of felt like when, sometimes you have to step up when you see something that needs to be done and nobody else is doing it. I feel like I do need to step up. And so I stepped up and, started NVCDL and got the reform, the concealed carry reform through. And at that point, my goal was to make the group a ongoing concern and last. And so when Val came along and showed some tremendous enthusiasm for the group and had such great credentials as a doctor, I was very happy that when we went statewide to let Val take the reins as president and be our first president. And that was part of our success at VCO, I think also is that, if you make a group one person, it's very hard to sustain a group. You need to have a team of people, right, and you need to and work together to make it grow because, this VCO has been going on now for, 20, I guess now 20, let's do my math here, 27 years now, effectively. Mm-hmm. And hopefully it'll go for another, until we get rid of the need for it, which, when they finally, the Democrats, stop trying to take away our gun rights and which, hopefully will be, next year. But I suspect it'll take a little bit longer.
Yeah. Well, I think we're going to win back a lot of places next year.
That would be awesome.
I hope so.
We have some really good Republicans working for us. Isn't that right, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, I've been pleased. I mean, I moved to Orange County a couple of years ago and got involved out here. Basically, the sanctuary movement got me fired up again. I'm pretty. We were in a pretty good position for a long time in Virginia, and I was kicking back a little and letting Phil Van Cleve carry the load. But with the antics of the Democrats in Richmond, I got involved in the sanctuary movement out here and spoke and helped get the sanctuary bill to pass in Orange County, and people encouraged me to run for office. And so I was really planning on last year when Nick Freitas was running for Congress, I was ready to run for his seat when it opened. Unfortunately, that race was, in my opinion, stolen from us. I think, John, your reporting has been right spot on. I mean, we don't, right now it's, I guess the media the mainstream media would call it baseless allegations.
Well,
there's definitely some shady stuff going on.
I don't think they can even call it baseless accusations. What happened was Nick Freitas won. He won. And then the husband of like a campaign worker, like a major high up campaign worker of Spanberger, who he was running against, her husband, who was also in charge of like all the auditing and everything else, found a flash drive with the required number of votes to have Spanberger win. And this is the husband.
And enough votes so they couldn't do a recount too.
Yeah, just enough votes to do a recount. And it was like on the missing flash drive that they found, it was like 90% for Spanberger.
Which is insane. Because Nick, I don't see any district in the 7th district where Spanberger would get 90% of the votes.
It wasn't like that. I think it was like 75%, but it was something just ridiculous considering that he was winning until, oops, wait a minute, we found this flash drive.
Yeah, all of the sudden.
Yeah, I mean, it was quite brazen. I mean, let's face it, it was quite brazen with the way this 2020 election went, and we're going to have to. I mean, we're in a weird dystopian world right now with COVID. We have a virus that 99.75% or more will survive, but they want us to give up all our freedoms to fight it. And I strongly suspect the next thing they're going to do is try to make gun violence a public health threat and use the same tactics against gun rights that they use against our health rights. They'll probably use the public health service to start attacking our gun rights more brazen. I mean, obviously, Johns Hopkins Public Health Center has been attacking gun rights for many years, but I think they're going to try to mainstream it and use the public health service because they've seen how effective it has been with the COVID. But in any event, we're in a very weird situation right now, and it's a little bit insane. I mean, I personally blame new math for most of what's going on. If any of you guys, I guess Val, who's homeschooled, probably never had to deal with it. But I remember when my daughter was in elementary school trying to deal with new math, and I was like, this stuff is insane. They're teaching kids to follow orders. They're not teaching them to solve anything. They're just teaching them to follow orders blindly and they're getting graded for following orders. And I really believe that's why we're at where we're at, why we're in this position, because of new math.
Talking about new math, my wife and I were trying to figure out my kids' new math, and I have like several advanced math degrees. So my wife wrote and says, I'm a doctor, my husband's an engineer, and neither one of us understand what the hell is going on with this.
Right. And the other thing is they don't even care if they give the wrong answer as long as they can explain how they got to that answer.
Yeah, it's really quite insane. I mean, and plus social media, I think, is the other big thing. What I've noticed with social media is people are so intimidated to go out of their social groups, political bias, political biases, and or just nobody wants to be the nail sticking up, so people stay quiet. And when you combine that with a few years ago, 2016, I think Facebook and other social media, you could still get around mainstream media because people could spread stuff virally. Some of it was kind of there was some stuff out there that was somewhat nonsensical. I mean, some of that Pizzagate stuff is a little wild, though. There is certainly truth to Pizzagate. I actually have a friend in D.C. who knows some of the parties involved and could, personally testify about, that some of the people involved were involved in shady underage sex scandals. But, there was a lot of nonsense going around about that. And but we could get around. You saw that the social media was very effective to get around the mainstream media and help Trump win the election. Plus, I think he also used some good Facebook marketing on there. But right now, they've pretty much taken social media and locked it down and fact-checked us so badly. Everything we're doing right now is the most innocuous meme gets fact-checked. And, to us who are, woke in our freedom-oriented way, we don't get fooled by these fact checks. But I think that type of fact-checking basically, keeps the more sheep-like people who aren't really aware of what's going on more comfortable in not looking at stuff. If everything that goes outside the mainstream programming is called a lie or baseless or disproven by fact checkers, people are more content to stay in their little bubble of following the crowd. So I really think we need to get around. We definitely need to get around this social media censorship, because I think that's really killing us. It's much easier. I think there's a very good chance they can shove through some gun control with this kind of blockage on social media. And we really need to fight that and get around it. I'm not sure what the solution though is.
Well,
what do you got?
I want to hit on a couple points. I'm not sure about the whole Pizzagate thing or what's true, what's not true with that. But I do want to say about the fact checkers. You know what happens when you prove the fact checkers wrong and you get them to retract a fact check?
You get banned?
Yeah, remember that, Val?
Yeah, I do.
I fault that because Rachel Malone, who's the director of Texas for Gun Owners of America, is a absolutely great person. She wrote an incredible article about Kamala Harris. Facebook marked her article as false. I fault that, and I put a lot of media pressure on them, a lot of political pressure, a lot of pressure internally, and they removed the false accusations. And then they banned me for life.
Well, that's your reward.
Yeah, well, I was like, hey, guys, I got Rachel's article. The fact check's gone, and they restricted GOA's groups for sharing it. And I got all those lifted, and then they banned me. So and Eric Pratt and stuff and John Vallejo, they're like, oh, that's great. That's a good job. It's like, yeah, they kind of banned me for life for getting that done, though.
Well, you did something right if they banned you.
Yeah, that was kind of funny. That was ridiculous.
Well, my wife pointed something out. And my wife pointed out the other day, my wife pointed out an article at Elle magazine that was really a quite good article on red flag laws. So I eagerly went online to check out their website. And curiously enough, this article was completely unavailable on the internet or on the website. So it's like when there is some truth, I don't know if it had been and they removed it, but they never, it was the strangest thing. They had this great article in the hard copy magazine, but they would not put it on the website. It was I guess the article was about this attorney, Kendra Paris, who was really, I guess she's a member of the liberal gun owners group, and but she's been fighting against red flag laws in Florida. But I mean, that's the type of censorship we're up against. When something doesn't fit their narrative, they just, like 1984, it goes into the black hole of nothingness.
Yeah. So, I want to ask you guys a question, getting back onto the history of gun rights in Virginia. Did you guys form or sign articles of incorporation or something in the
Yep.
office of the Olsons?
Yep.
I talked to Rob today, by the way.
Yep. I was like 97, 1997-ish. Mm-hmm.
I think I talked to Rob about chickens or something today. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
GOA's lawyer call you and you think it's something important, and it's like, I got some new chickens.
Yeah, initially I ran NBCDL as a benign dictatorship, and just kind of, I would consult with people, but ultimately do things based on my own judgment. But eventually these guys wore me down, and and I realized to make it an ongoing thing, we needed to really, have a board of directors and bylaws and all sorts of, things that organizations need. And we got together, and Val was intimately involved with that. And, we wrote a pretty, in retrospect, I think I probably would have made the organization more executive, give more strength to the executive, because I think in the end, really, you need to have the leader of the group have more ability to set policy and turn things move so fast you don't have time to have a board meeting. But overall, the group's lasted a long time, so I think we did a pretty good job. What do you think, Val?
Oh, I think it was fantastic what we put together. We had some, I know we had some discussions when we were creating, with the two classes of membership, where we had the regular members and the executive members, and then the board is drawn from the executive members as kind of a way to guard the integrity of the organization. I remember having discussions about that with you and Jim and Bill Olson, and back in '97. But I think we did a great job and made something that's sustainable, and it's proven, it's been there ever since, and it's grown dramatically. I mean, and then look at the iterations of the other things we put together. We started off with we had nvcdl.org, and I started as the webmaster, and it was kind of like this GeoCities site with like dancing GIFs all over, back in the sort of the end of that era. And then we went to vcdl.org, and then I remember us doing we had like an email list that we were just like blind carbon copying everybody on the email list, and it just kept growing and growing. And I said we needed a new solution for that. Then we started VA Alert, and that VA Alert started as a basic PHP listserv. That's how we started it. I don't know if we're probably they're not using the same system now, but and that was a game changer. So people could subscribe to it automatically, and we could communicate quickly across the state. And then VCDL became the model for other states. I mean, you have WVCDL, we have other citizens defense leagues, other places that popped up.
Yeah. The reason why I brought up the Olsons is because one of them was at the helm of a major victory that's going to have a ripple effect across not only Virginia, they're kind of banned, but VCDL was also a member of this case.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to put it up right here. Val with his Rodecaster Pro.
It's like we got to get a little applause for that.
Yeah, love the sound effects.
Yep.
Yeah. Look at that victory bump stock.
Yep.
Bump stock is not a machine gun. Oh, it was really funny today. The reason why I brought that up, I'm sitting there talking to some people and at a birthday party, and they were talking about the bump stock thing. How like that was the court ruling of bump stocks and stuff like that. And guess who calls me at the exact same time? Rob Olson. About chickens or something. I don't know. So I pick up. I'm like, hey guys, I'm talking to the guy. I'm talking to the attorney that won the bump stock case about chickens right now.
Yeah, you knew the
and everybody was laughing. And I'm like, no, I'm actually talking about the case you're talking about with the lawyer. So he was like, I need to retire. Yeah, I like the Olsons. They're pretty good guys. They're super attorneys, by the way.
Yep.
Yeah, the Olsons, if you don't know, the Olsons represent GOA, and they also represent VCDL. So they're really pro-gun attorneys. So if you need a pro-gun attorney, yeah, I just recommended them to one of my really, really famous friends. I'm not going to say who, but one of my really famous gun friends. So they might be getting a call soon. Exciting times, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I'm going to start with Paul. Paul, what do you think of the bump stock ruling that bump stocks are not machine guns?
Well, I'll take a win. I mean, I thought that was kind of weak. I mean, I'm a big fan of President Trump, and I didn't always agree with some. He had some boners with the. I'm not going to blame him entirely for the bump stock, but I think the Wayne LaPierre and company seem to be the ones pushing that agenda. But I'm a big Trump fan, but I think the bump stock and red flag things were screw ups on his part, and hopefully he but I think he learned from that, and I think he moved on, and we stopped hearing that kind of stuff. And hopefully in his second term, in 2024, he won't make any more mistakes on those lines. But the bump stock was a huge win. Congrats to GOA and BCDL and the lawyers involved. Very happy with it.
They're talking about GeoCities in the chat.
Yeah, it was opposite. GeoCities was great.
Did you guys have GeoCities?
I don't think we use GeoCities.
I think Rob Seastrom. I'm not sure what he's up to nowadays, but as I recall, Rob Seastrom was hosting our website for a while, and I mean, it was one of the things. This is why I was kind of talking about the social media crackdown, how bad it is for us, because what they've done is effectively you're allowed to now go viral if you're pushing a leftist or progressive cause. They'll let you go viral. They'll push your cause. They'll let you organize rallies and whatnot. But now they're shutting down our stuff. They're fact checking us. They killed the VCDL group on Facebook. I mean, they're basically becoming fascists on social media. And back when we started NBCDL, we had a huge advantage because that was, remember, 94, 95, the internet really didn't take off till Windows 95 came out in 95. And that was when people started having browsers that actually even started going on browsing the web. Before 95, in 94 when we started, it was basically people, in IT and technical fields that used mail. The average person just didn't use email back then. I think AOL had a few people on it at that point. But we had a huge advantage in that we had a lot of connected online users who could, and I think that's one reason we had kind of like a sneak attack on the General Assembly, because we had this, this electronic mail and ability to communicate. We were also using back then BBSs. I remember NRA had a Gun Talk BBS that was run by Tanya Metaxa, and her webmaster, I believe her webmaster is now the NRA's general counsel, unless it's a guy with the same name, John Fraser. But and they were run out of a little rinky-dink office somewhere in Springfield, I believe, or Newington. But remember we were really in the baby days of electronic communication, and we had the advantage in what they do. And why I'm so concerned now is that they basically, they've got everybody online, and the average person is heavily on social media, and now they're pretty much trying to take that away from anything except approved thought. And I think that is why it's so. I think we really need to get this licked and take. I'm wondering, something along the line of a grassroots campaign of, taking individual lawsuits in local courts. I think if maybe across the country, if thousands of people, started suing the fact checkers for, slander. Or some other, form of legal action. Because in effect, when they're calling you, saying when they fact check you, they are in effect calling you a liar. And if they, I don't really like being called a liar. I mean, do you guys like being called liars? I don't.
I don't.
No,
But-
not at all.
But it looks like our chat room had devolved into nostalgia for the 90s.
Yeah.
Somebody's still talking about playing Quake. Oh yeah, I play Quake all the time.
Quake, Big Trouble in Little China, Jack Burton. Talking about Angel Fire.
I like the Barney hack for Quake.
Oh, and I saw Val smile a little bit when you said BBS.
Yes.
Remember FidoNet?
FidoNet. Yes, I do remember FidoNet. But
We may have to set up a figure way to set up our own FidoNet because they've taken us off the internet pretty much.
Well,
Yeah.
it's funny you should say that, Paul, because in Pennsylvania, there's a group right outside. I got Independence Hall behind me on the green screen, but they actually are out of Philadelphia called PAFO, or Pennsylvania Firearms Owners Association. They started in like 2007, 2008, maybe 2008. And their whole thing is they set up a bulletin board, not to be confused with the BBS. John corrected me on the last time we were on here. He's got to correct me. I'm an old guy.
it's like it's like one of my pet peeves. A
Right.
bulletin board and a bulletin board system are
Different,
two
right.
different things.
You're absolutely right, John. I mean, but anyway, they set up it's if you go to pafoa.org, you'll see it. It's a bulletin board, and then you could subscribe to it, and and it's independent. There's a lot of people on it, so there's at least something here in Pennsylvania that people could default to if everybody gets deplatformed. I mean, it wouldn't be ideal, obviously. And some of the other things we're looking at GOA now to try to get around the cancel culture censorship garbage is, moving to text messages or having an app on the phone where people can get push notifications directly, so we can bypass the social media, censorship.
Yeah, you want to get into that? Oh man, behind the scenes stuff, right?
Yeah, I'm just saying, and we're looking at other options. I mean, we have
We are looking at other options,
Right.
but like anything, other options are debated, contested until something is decided on.
That is correct. Yes,
I think Val and I are on the same page. On a lot of the tech stuff. Yeah, and I think we also have to move to things like minds.com and stuff like that more than MeWe.
Yeah, right. Like the blockchain stuff. I mean, there's blockchain domains that can't be canceled.
That's hard though.
It's hard. That's the problem with that stuff. It's too hard.
People don't understand technology.
I know.
And trying to explain to people tech, like blockchain. Scott, can you explain to me what blockchain is?
I have no clue.
Exactly. 99.9% of the population. Okay, I'm going to go. Val, can you explain blockchain?
I could probably give you a very basic definition of it, but it's not going to be adequate, John. So I'll pass.
That's the problem. A lot of people don't understand blockchain, and it's not an easy concept to get, and it's a very, very powerful concept, and it's a very, very powerful thing, but it's just not something that
Tusk.
non-technological people can actually, that's the wrong wallpaper I have up. Thank you for pointing that out.
Oh yeah, you have to. I saw Tusk right on there. I blockchain and cryptocurrency and all that. Yes.
Yeah, there you go. Like
all right.
the GOA background. Sorry.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I got my GOA background for StreamYard done. Woohoo!
Yeah, but like blockchain is not exactly the easiest thing to understand.
Nope. Yeah, so that's the problem. But like you said, John, we have to explore and be ready, and we have to have backup contingency plans. I mean, who knows when they're going to have another cycle of booting people off of Facebook. I mean, I set up a state web group, I should say, a group on MeWe for Pennsylvania GOA, and I tried to start pushing people to it, and I think I'm up to like close to 490, maybe around that neighborhood now. I mean, that's a pittance compared to what we have on, just our group. We have like 9,000 on the group, and then our state say so page, we have like 12,000. I mean, that's a lot of difference. And, I guess if we got thrown off, I guess more people would come over.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with convenience.
Yep.
Right.
That's why we have to fight so hard to stay on these platforms. People are like, well, we just go move off of them.
No, it's too hard.
It's not that easy because people want convenience. They want to go where everything is. Like,
that's right.
And like the gun world, we have Gunstreamer and Full 30, and I have a Full 30 account. If I'm not even sure that's open to the public yet, but it was like invite only before.
It's open.
It's open now.
Supposedly, yeah.
Okay. And Gunstreamer and the Full 30, I was like, oh yeah, it's great. It's all the gun people, but no one used it because, like me, I watch a lot of tech videos, and I watch gun videos and tech videos, and I like these investigation down the rabbit hole type videos. That's not on Gunstreamer or Full 30, but I can find them here, and I can find my gun videos.
Right.
So it's more likely for people like that, unless they make a conscious effort to go watch gun videos from Full 30 and Gunstreamer, which I do, but most people aren't going to make that conscious effort, and they're going to stick to the platforms that they're familiar with, and YouTube and platforms like that. So that's why we have to fight so hard. So when people ask me why I fight so hard to stay on Twitter and why I file FEC complaints against Facebook and stuff like that, it's because it's important for us not to get kicked off the platforms.
Right.
Because you saw what happened with Parler originally. Well, Parler's back up, but they shut it down. If we move to a different platform, they're just going to shut us down there,
Right.
Back door.
Right.
Plus,
and the other thing with that is, like you said, if we move to another platform and they have the ability to shut us down, when it comes back up, they're going to have to try to make some more rules to limit what people are saying. So, I mean, it still kind of goes around full circle no matter where you wind up. And people will still just wind up going back to the major platforms again anyway, because they'll be like, okay, well, I give up here because I can't. It's the same over here as it is there. So,
I saw a question that I wanted to get back to. Somebody was asking how to start a VCDL and VCDL. They're talking about how do you start one in like Montana or whatever, or wherever state they're from.
I think it was Missouri,
Missouri, yeah. I can't remember. I knew it was an M state, one of the M states. How would you advise them to start a group like a VCDL or VCDL?
In Virginia, NVCL started off with 5 people. I mean, I knew probably a dozen people who were active in gun rights, and when I called for I called for a protest of the Alexandria sheriff at the time, a guy named Jim Dunning, who has since passed on. He was doing a gun turn-in at a church in Alexandria, and I put out a word on, my email contacts at the time to activists, and said, let's do a protest. And we had 5 people showed up, and that was the start of NVCL. We called it. That was when I coined the name Northern Virginia Citizens Defense League, October 22nd, 1994. That was the start of it, and we built from there, person by person. And the thing is, I like to look at this stuff as, you don't need huge numbers. You need to have, like the SEALs. The SEALs are not. There's not a lot of them, but they're good. What you need to do is get dedicated people who are willing to work together and build from there. You don't need to have huge numbers. I mean, on social media and stuff, you can get huge numbers of people to get into your cause if you're politically correct or in the flavor of the day. But in the end, that kind of stuff really doesn't last. For the grassroots group, just start with people and have some figure out what you're about. For gun rights, of course, you have that no compromise gun rights is pretty much a standard thing. You're not going to have any success if you start a group that wants to compromise. And at the time, I remember there was a few. They've started some groups over the years of AstroTurf groups that said they're gun owner groups that want compromise and whatnot. And you notice they don't last very long at all. So that's my advice. Start with a core group and work from there, and you don't need big numbers.
Yeah. Apparently, G-Webs is saying gun websites is saying VCDL is what gave the idea to the 5 guys that started Arizona Citizens Defense League. How'd you come up with the name? Why'd you decide to go with Citizens Defense League?
Well, we played with a lot of different ideas at the time, and that just seemed, it seemed to be what, kind of was a good name. We were, Virginia, obviously, we're citizens. Defense is not offensive, it's defensive, which who can argue with defense? And league was, to promote, kind of had a cool sound to it. And so for whatever reason, that was what we went with. And we liked it, and it grew, and it seemed to catch on. It isn't offensive. It doesn't seem to offend anybody, which, it's good. And we, with the copycats, I mean, it's more power to them. If other groups start and use the same, more power to them, because this is all about building groups across the country.
Yeah.
At the time, there were only a handful of grassroots gun rights groups.
That's right.
And I think we've outlasted most.
One thing I have noticed, if you see somebody said, "Oh, they're Citizens Defense League," so that means there's no compromise. Citizens Defense League have become synonymous with no compromise, and most of the groups like Connecticut Citizens Defense League, Arizona Citizens Defense League, if they have Citizens Defense League in them and they're modeled after VCDL, they usually mean that they are in the vein of VCDL, which is no compromise.
Right.
So I think you guys did a wonders for that. And I'm doing a book. I think it's like 2 books away from being released. So it should be released next year around this time. But it's on like the history of local gun groups. I already got VCDL done, but talking to all these groups, it's like, we saw Virginia and we modeled our group out of Virginia Citizens Defense League after Virginia Citizens Defense League. Now, Val, how did you become the first president?
I was asked to. Paul asked me. I think if I remember the history right, he asked me if
I was eager to get Sal to take over.
Yeah, he asked
wanted
me
out of there. After North Virginia Citizens Defense League.
Yeah, so and it was good. I put it together. And I think everybody knew that because I was active duty Army at the time, I wasn't going to be there forever. So then Phil Van Cleve actually came on board while I was the first president, and we started working together. And of course, Phil's in Richmond, and then he was the natural person to take over when I left, and he's been the second president since. Actually,
I was the second president, and then I guess down the road a few years later, Phil took over. But
I see. Okay. So he's actually the third then.
Yeah, we had Phil on last week.
He's the third president. Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, Phil's done a great job sticking with it all these years. I mean, I'm amazed, and the fact is, I'm wondering when we're all going to get our custom suits, because I think one of these days we all should get one set of custom suits at least.
Oh yeah.
Isn't that the point of having a gun rights group? So you have really nice suits.
Right.
Well, Eric Pratt's driving back from Florida in a van, in a minivan. So.
Oh man. No.
That's how GOA spends their money.
Oh my gosh. Speaking of books, John, I finished my first one too.
Oh, which one?
I'm going to read another one now.
Oh.
So let me ask this. Now, Lobby Day being a very successful event, who was the one who thought of that idea and it brought that into play?
That was Phil. Really, Phil wanted to bring that back. And to be honest, after seeing the rally we had in '93 against One Gun a Month, I have always been kind of a skeptic of rallies.
Mhm.
But I think the Lobby Day really worked well in Virginia, especially there was a period in the 2000. There was a period of about, from say 2001 to until just a few years ago, really, that the Democrats were pretending to be, at least somewhat pro Second Amendment, and that Lobby Day they really kind of was very effective during that period. Now I'm beginning to think maybe that the rally in Richmond is not necessarily the best way to go. I've been talking to Phil about moving the rallies out to the sanctuary counties and to the areas where we have swing votes, because they've made it so hostile in Richmond that, it's just may be impossible to have a really good rally day in there. But, others can have different opinions. But what do you think, Val?
Yeah, generally speaking, we always teach that rallies in themselves are not effective unless they are combined with a sustained grassroots effort. Here in Pennsylvania, they have an annual rally. It's a very good rally, and it's nothing to complain about. But it's like a once-a-year event where people come in the lobby, and then these legislators, they forget about you as soon as you're gone. I mean, you have to have a sustained grassroots effort, email campaigns. You got to get people back to the Capitol a few times too, if you want to do that, and be targeted. But yeah, I mean, if in a local level for say-sos, I think we've done say-so rallies here in Pennsylvania. I think they're more effective because at a local government level, they pay attention more to the number of people that show up at a meeting. It really gets those county commissioners, or in the case of Virginia supervisors, your county supervisors nervous when you've got, 500 people sitting in a meeting. They're not used to that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hey, Val, have you been doing sanctuary movement in Pennsylvania? I really haven't been following it so much.
Yeah.
But the sanctuary movement in Virginia was crazy. How many people were coming out to these local county seats of government? And we would get thousands, like 1,000 to 2,000 or more at every county in a weeknight. It was late at night in the winter. It was wacko. What was it like in Pennsylvania?
Well, can I say one thing about that?
Fire away.
I'm gonna take off my GOA director hat and put on my investigative journalist hat.
Crumpy hat.
Yes. Firearm Owners Against Crime, which is I wouldn't call them an equivalent, but they're like the Pennsylvania group. They have been working behind the scenes, and this is a scoop for you guys. The president, at least, Kim Stouffer has been working behind the scenes, talking to politicians to prevent Second Amendment sanctuary movements. So that's what Val's up against. I know he really can't say anything, but Kim Stouffer, he's the. Go ahead, Paul.
What group is this that's working against him? Is it a gun group?
Yes.
Why would they be doing that?
They believe that it's a violation of the firearms preemption law, and that if it'll open the floodgates of localities pass say-sos, then it'll go to the Supreme Court, and it's nuts. Okay, because it has nothing to do with regulating firearms.
Well, this is also the dude that gave a B+ to a guy that wants universal background checks, magazine restrictions, and mandatory state police training and written tests before you're allowed to buy firearms.
Well, it doesn't sound like they're a no compromise group now, does it?
That's a B+ politician.
Yeah, I mean,
is this group like a one-man group type thing where one guy's making up, pulling all the stuff out of their rear?
Pretty much.
I think that's the problem with groups like that, is when you have a group that's run by one person over time, eventually they can get a little, the one thing I always found with having a group of people around me was I mean, not that I would ever compromise. I don't think we ever had that problem. But sometimes if I had an idea that was maybe a little half-cocked, that'd be reeled in by the others. It kind of keeps you honest. And that's one reason I think the BCO has had such a great history. Is it's not just a one-man group. It's a continuing effort, a team effort with lots of people putting in lots of time and going on. But yeah, I think the sanctuary movement is, people say, it has no teeth, but I think it is a very good movement in that if you get people believing that, gun laws are not acceptable, that unconstitutional gun laws should just be rejected, and you shouldn't convict people in court of gun, no matter what they pass, you shouldn't convict them. And if your politicians enforce them that they're bad, eventually the politicians will get the message and they will stop writing the laws, they'll stop enforcing the laws, and perhaps they'll even start repealing the laws, which is hopefully where we're.
I'm going to get this out there. G-Webs wants to thank you guys for the work you have done in the past. And he wants to also for taking the time to post this for our history. He researches this type of stuff. And then he says, also, thank you, John Crump, I guess, for hosting. Like, what is he gonna... I know, man. But he used to be the media director for Arizona Citizens Defense League, and they said they went to Virginia, then they came back, and then they came back and was like, oh yeah, we know what we have to do. We have to model our organization after VCDL.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we've noticed the way we started kind of on the heels of Virginia's Say So movement. And, the people in our state were very sensitive to what was going on in Virginia, and they wanted to be proactive about it. So we got things rolling. Then we had the whole controversy blow up with FOAC right at the start. We picked up steam really hard in Fayette County and southwestern Pennsylvania, and then COVID hit. And then that just kind of derailed everything. It was hard to even have a meeting. And then our focus at GOA, both nationally and at the state, became keeping gun stores open and keeping gun ranges open.
And we sued quite a bit, and we won quite a bit.
Stopped issuing licenses to carry firearms, so we had to deal with that issue. I was calling sheriffs up to talk to like the sheriff in Allegheny County, wanted to know how to keep his deputy sheriff safe, and we were doing things like that. And now it just seems like a switch has been flipped, and we're like picking up where we left off, but there's been a lot of undermining going on, and that has really impeded our efforts. And what's happened is that Bradford County back in December of 2019 passed a resolution, and of course GOA has ordinances, and the ordinances have teeth because it's a law, and there's a penalty. It says no county funds can be expended for enforcing unconstitutional, unlawful acts in the ordinance is what it's called, and all those things are in the ordinance, but the resolution does nothing. So Bradford County back in December of 2019 passed this resolution. And as soon as that happened, I was like, oh my gosh, now the politicians have an easy way out. And so we got two ordinances passed. We got one in Buffalo Township in Union County, and also West Manheim Township, right where I'm at in York County, right from the beginning. And then it looked like we were going to get some counties, but between Bradford County and all the undermining that was going on, they've all been falling like dominoes now and just passing resolutions. So we hit them hard. We've been hitting some counties hard with email, and people have signed our petitions, and our members and supporters in those counties, and they'll turn around and pass a resolution. So our solicitor says we can't do it because we don't have the authority to do it. That's really the bottom line. And, you try to explain the constitutional aspects of this, the fact that, we want the local officials to stand in between, stand in the gap. We call it the doctrine of interposition, to interpose themselves between a tyrannical ruler such as a Tom Wolf or a Joe Biden, and to protect the citizens in their county. The preemption law, we don't want to do it, But meanwhile, back in the COVID epidemic, or it's still the pandemic, I guess, this year, but last year when it was like out of control, we had counties that were saying we're not going to enforce we're not going to obey and we're not going to enforce Governor Wolf's tyrannical edicts. We had Lebanon County did that. They did the exact same thing to keep businesses open. They realized it was an unjust rule, an unjust edict, and they stood in between their citizens and the governor. That was okay, apparently, but when it comes to your constitutional rights, you can't do that because our county solicitor said it was wrong. You know, it's like that. It's like they're whiny, but they got it. Well, some counties did. A lot of them didn't, but like Lebanon County got it. I mean, here in York County, our DA said he wasn't at one point said he wasn't good to prosecute anyone. He was using his authority. He's a constitutional officer. He was using his authority to say, "Look, I'm using my discretion as a prosecutor. We're not going to prosecute people for keeping their stores open. We're just not going to do it." So this is a long-standing history in American jurisprudence, and our own state stood in between the gap in the Fugitive Slave Act. We refused to cooperate during the fugitive return of slaves in the Fugitive Slave Act. So we got to get the message out there, and I think maybe, I hate to say it, there's nothing really pounding on the door like there was in Virginia, and maybe that's coming. I hope not. I'm not wanting this to happen. Don't get me wrong. But if it does happen from the Biden administration, I think people are going to wake up, and they should have woken up a year ago or 2 years ago when this all started.
Well, I suspect we're going to be getting into that, depending on how crazy the Biden administration gets on guns with their if they try to push through an so-called assault weapon ban, or some other crazy gun control scheme. I suspect if all the sanctuary movement is going to go, nuclear, and go into overdrive.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. And
are we going to keep on?
Say again.
Are we going to keep on talking? I see it's like 11:07. I can stay on.
No, we're about to wrap it up. I didn't even realize that we were this far. Wow.
Didn't mean to.
It's a blast.
Went by quick, yeah.
I don't think Silverback said hardly anything.
I've said a few things. I mean, you guys are talking. You making good points.
Dude, I don't think I said very much either. It was the ES podcast. I was playing World of Warcraft here as you guys were.
I've just been listening to the interesting conversation from these two fine gentlemen here, and they make great points. I mean, and Val seems very passionate about what he's doing, and I like that.
Oh, Val's very passionate.
I want to see more of that across the country. And this is the kind of thing that we need. We need people to get up and get passionate about what's happening and put their voices out and be heard. I mean, that's the only way we're going to slow this thing down and get back to where things used to be and regain our rights in full standing. Other than that, we're going to be staring down the barrel of their gun and we won't have nothing to fight back with.
Right.
Val and I have had some pretty late nights here recently too. Mm-hmm. I think you were on with when it was like when watching the Texas thing, right?
Yeah.
I left until 2 a.m. and then I was like, You
mean Georgia, the Georgia race?
No, the Georgia race you did, but recently, were you in that chat with Rachel?
Oh, yeah, with the constitutional carry. Yeah, I was watching that, and then we stayed up really late on Georgia. All of us did.
Yeah, Georgia, we were all up. Then we all started crying, but that's okay.
But the after midnight crew, as John would tell you at GOA, is me, Crump, and Alan Rice sitting in his police cruiser up in Massachusetts.
Yeah. If you think gun rights is a 9 to 5 issue, it's not.
24/7.
I've worked on stuff at like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, texting back with Eric Pratt when you're trying to get something up or research something, or Val or Alan Rice or Rachel or Louise or any number of people at GOA.
It's a 24/7 thing, and it's not just a handful of people thing. It's a everybody thing. If you are for the Second Amendment, you need to put effort in and help out.
Well, At GOA, everyone there is really passionate about the Second Amendment.
Mhm.
There's no one there that's there just for a paycheck.
Right. That's great.
To a person. I mean, I don't know of a single person at GOA that's there just for a paycheck.
Right.
And everyone's available 24/7, basically.
Well, and you have to be, John, as you know. I mean, this stuff, pops up in weekends, and something happens, and then you're writing a press release, or there's a bill that you didn't think was going to move is moving, and it's going to, and you got to get an alert out fast. I mean, it's time sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not evergreen content, as
right.
Our media director likes to say about, like, you have two different types of content. You have the immediate and now, and you have evergreen, which is good forever. We don't have a lot of that evergreen stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Although, like, yeah, I mean, it moves fast, and then
really fast.
You have to deal with it or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not easy. That's why when people say, what do you have to do to become a director? And I tell them, I'm like, okay, this is what you need to do. This is all the stuff that you need. This is what you're going to be doing. This is like, well, this is what you do. This is how much time it takes. And then they're like, all right, good job. I hope you find someone.
Right. Yeah, it is, and then we have Luis Valdez in Florida now, who just came on with us a few months ago, and he's doing a bang up job in Florida. Florida's a huge state, and we need people in our swing states, like I think Pennsylvania was great for GOA to get involved in. Florida, fantastic. We need somebody in Ohio so Ohio's another swing state. We've got Texas covered. Be strategic about what are the important states for us to be in. Georgia is becoming, if not already, a swing state. Like a battleground, I should say, a battleground state. And so if Georgia and Pennsylvania and Ohio and Florida are all battleground states, then we need to have a presence in those states for gun rights, so that we're surveying candidates, building the grassroots, because there's a big difference I've noticed from, getting involved. I lived in Pittsburgh. I'm from Pittsburgh. And then I moved to the capital, to York. I'm within 30 minutes of the capital. It's no big deal. And my grandkids are here. That's another reason I moved here. But, that's being in that capital and having a presence there on a regular basis makes a big difference. If you don't follow the same tactics as some other gun rights groups do, and they're access based and they're just schmoozing and making backroom deals all day. When GOA or like VCDL, when we go into the Capitol, it's always the grassroots people behind us, so they see my face, and now they connect. Now they're making a connection between the emails they're receiving on their computer and the phone calls that they're getting with a lobbyist that's standing in front of them. And that's a very powerful connection to have. So having that in these battleground states, if we have a dedicated grassroots, lobbyist or state director, I should say, in those states, it will really help. And I always keep in mind what the men in the building behind me did when I'm there. When I walk into the Capitol, I say, this is what we're about. We're about protecting the constitutional rights of gun owners.
Did Val freeze up, or or if you're just playing the statue game?
What's that?
Do we lose Val?
You like locked up there.
Oh yeah, you lock. I don't know what happened, but
you look like this.
Okay.
I asked if you locked up, or are you just playing the statue game?
No, I locked. I don't know what happened. I must have locked up for a second, but anyway, that's it. I mean, I think it does make a difference. We got to have people, in those battleground states now.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and stuff it back. Then we're gonna wrap it up.
I was gonna say, I have a friend in Ohio that I think would be perfect for the position.
Oh, send the name our way.
I will do.
All right. With that said, it looks like we are way over. When Nick gets his file, he's gonna freak. Nick is the producer. You're like, I have to edit this.
Mr. Producer.
He's also the producer on Val's show too.
There's a little bit of space he can cut out there in the beginning when Paul kept on cutting in and out. So
Yeah, sorry about that. The phone conversation seems to work better.
Yep. All right. So we're gonna go around the room. We're gonna start with me because we always do. Then we're gonna go to Silverback. Then we'll go to our guest. We're gonna go to Paul last for the final word. Val, sorry you don't get the final word.
It's okay.
You can always follow me on crumpy.com. Go
I've
to
been married
gunowners.org.
for 30 years, John. I never get the final word.
I thought you were single.
No, I'm married for 30 years.
I'm just joking. Go to gunowners.org. Join up, man. It's a great organization. Check out vcdl.org where Val was the first president, and it formed out of NVCDL, which was founded by Paul. With that said, I'm going to kick it over to Silverback.
I'd like to thank these guys for being here and definitely thank them extremely for getting the VCDL started. I've been a member of the VCDL and I enjoy it thoroughly. These guys do a great job. They always put out the information, never lacking in the information. And that's a great thing to be so responsive and dedicated. And, they stick to it and they don't want to leave anybody in the dark about what's going on. And, more gun groups need to be that way. That's why I applaud the GOA and the VCDL 100% for doing everything that they're doing. They actually put the work in and they care about their members and they care about our rights. So, but with that, you can also find me here at Black Swan Media or not Black Swan Media, but Black Swan Tactical, Patreon, Gunstreamer. Haven't done much there lately, but you can also find me on Facebook as well.
All right, Val.
Thanks for having me on. It was good to reconnect with Paul, and I would honestly say, he's been an inspiration for me, and I consider him like, one of my early mentors in politics. And, I'm grateful to Paul for everything that he's done.
And Paul.
Thank you for the kind words, Val, and John, and Silverback. I encourage everybody to join VCDL if they're not already a member, and join GOA. I'm also a life member of NRA, and I would encourage you, if you're a member of NRA, to keep your membership up, and we'll try to make them get in there and keep them going once they clean up their act. And I will say, if you live in Orange County, Virginia, please, and want to get involved, I'm now the chairman of the Orange County Republican Party and chair, and I would encourage you to come down and volunteer and get involved. We're going to have a convention soon, and we're going to try to get a very good some good pro-gun candidates elected. Thank you very much, guys, and I'm glad. Thank you for inviting me on the show.
All right, thank you guys so much. We'll be back next weekend. My show comes out on Monday. For my next show, and the audio only portion of this show would be up on Wednesday. Thank you to all the producers. With that said, we are out.
Bye now.
Bye.
This has been Virginia Reloaded, a Gun Owners of America podcast. Tune in weekly for the latest gun news from the Commonwealth and beyond. Check out Gun Owners of America at gunowners.org.